All right, everybody. So today we're going to be taking a look at one of Trump's cabinet members, or at least an advisor to the secretary. That's the, I guess, official position that he's gotten from Trump administration that's coming in 2025. Joel Salatin. He is advisor to the secretary for the USDA. So the USDA basically handles agriculture in this country, and he's going to be heading that position, which so far I've heard a lot of good things about him because he's very pro homesteading. He's very pro, traditional agriculture, not big factory farming, which is a lot of what we've gotten over the past few decades in America. Um, so we're definitely going to talk a lot about health on this channel. Um, Big advocate for health, as you can probably see from our Amazon storefront. We have a lot of health related products, wellness products on our Amazon storefront there. Definitely think it's important to take care of your health. And, we will be promoting that a lot on this channel. But I did want to take a look at this Joel Salatin, who's coming in next year in 25 to be an advisor with the Trump team, Trump campaign. And see what he's about to get an idea as to what it's going to look like when he's involved in this position in our country. And then also a video of RFK Jr., who's taking over some positions with the Trump administration for the FDA, the CDC, and some of the other health agencies that are unappointed, unelected positions, but the government has created these departments. So between this gentleman, Joel Salatin, and RFK Jr., it looks like they're going to, or at least they plan to, really overhaul the health system and industries in this country. So we're going to see what he has to say. What both of them have to say as to, maybe what some of their plans are for, coming into this administration. The video RFK posted is an interview between him and Joel, and it just went up one day ago, so it's really fresh. It's really brand new. But this is a little sneak peek, an article on this gentleman, Joel Salatin. So that's him, and apparently it's from the day after the election. Self-described Christian libertarian environmentalist capitalist lunatic farmer. So I guess that's kind of the name that he gave to himself. So he's kind of putting it all out there. He's a Christian, he's a libertarian, and he's a farmer who's interested in the environment. All that stuff I think is pretty good. Obviously, this nation is a Christian nation. It was founded on Christianity. We're going to talk a lot more about that in the future. There's a lot of cool history in this country from the time that the Pilgrims came here, even before that, really, the time that Columbus came here, to the Pilgrims, to the Puritans, to, the founding of this nation with the original 13 colonies. There's been so much influence of God and Christianity, especially on this nation. Many have recognized this nation as the, in a way, you could say the new Jerusalem, the new Israel, the new light on the hill for all the other nations to kind of observe and take a look at as an example of how Christians can come together in a country and all be, living under God's will, carrying out God's will. So we're going to talk a lot more about America's Christian roots, and it spans over a long time, from the 1492 when Columbus sailed here to, now 2024, that's over 500 years that America has had Christian roots in this country, even before it was, officially America. So we're going to talk a lot more about that. But just for today, we're going to focus on this. And, so he's declaring himself a Christian, which is nice to see. We do need more Christians in the American government in any fashion. Also, the fact that he's a libertarian, I think, is personally nice because he's not pledging his allegiance to one party or another. And the fact that Trump actually brought him in even though he's a self-described libertarian, I think is great too, because it shows that Trump is willing to work with people outside of his party. So that's good. We need that. This really America is so divided in many ways, and it really shouldn't be. We're all on the same team. We're all Americans. So it shouldn't really matter if you're a Republican, Democrat, whatever, or at least that's how you vote. Don't identify with that. That's just how you tend to vote. But don't ever let something like that become part of your identity. Um, but in this case, he describes himself as a libertarian, and I think that really more just means ideologically that he is probably really, more from a place of government shouldn't interfere with the American people's way of life, and that we should have very limited government. That's typically what the libertarians believe. The fact that he's an environmentalist, I think, is good too, because we do, even though a lot of what the Democrats have put through with their, environmental policies, green things like that. A lot of it is just a money grab. A lot of it is just a way for the government to um, take wealth, power, and control away from the everyday American who wants to, farm and homestead and things of that nature, and sort of corporatize everything, and then find a way to siphon money from all these different industries into the government's pockets. They charge, green tax and all these different things that they will use to tax the people and companies for green environmental initiatives. And a lot of it doesn't go back to helping the country be, healthier or, less polluted or environmentally safer. It just goes to the politicians' pockets, and then they do what they want with it. They either, send it overseas to a foreign nation, or they put together some, program that isn't helping the people. And whatever it is, they're siphoning the money away from one area and putting it into another area against the will of the people. So I think it's good that he's a self-declared environmentalist also, because that's something that I think the American people can align on. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican. We all want to live in an environment that's clean and safe, right? We all want to live in a country that's not heavily polluted like some other countries in the world. Also, not like it was in the past. I mean, there was a time in American history, after the Industrial Revolution, where the country was really very heavily polluted because there was so much industrialization going on, and not much was focused on, keeping things clean and nice. It was more just focused on how fast can we build this infrastructure so that we could become the world's superpower. It worked, but now there has to come a time where we clean things up, get things right environmentally, but not in a way where it's fraudulent or it's overdone and it ends up inhibiting growth because of, these policies that are a little bit too much. Um, Also, the fact that he's a self-declared capitalist, that's another great thing, because we want somebody who actually loves capitalism. America is founded, one of the principles is on capitalism. We're not a country of socialistic values like, many are trying to make us. We believe in capitalism. Capitalism is the people have the power and the ability and the right to go out there and earn a living in any way they see fit. That's legal. And you know, uh, competition. It incentivizes competition. It incentivizes growth. It incentivizes so many great things that propelled us to be the world superpower. We went from um, a country of, colonies and laborers and agricultural farmers, people like that, to after the early 1900s with the Industrial Revolution, after the Civil War, we grew to be the number one uh, world's economy. We have the highest GDP. We do the most amount of trade with other countries in the world. We are the number one country in the world, economically speaking. Um, so, it's nice to see that he describes himself as these things, but also more importantly, a farmer, right? He's getting into the USDA as the advisor to the secretary. It's nice to see an actual farmer's in there and not some corporate person or some person who went to college, never touched soil or any type of plant, never knew anything about gardening or homesteading or farming in any capacity, but somehow, some corporate bureaucrat worked their way up to decide how this country is going to run its agriculture is laughable. We should have a farmer in that position, right? Um, it's nice to see somebody who's actually practiced the trade in charge of the trades industry now. So that's going to be interesting. We're going to see where that goes. But yeah, just based on this article, it just kind of it says that he was appointed this position, um, and the fact that he's also pro homesteading, I think, is probably going to be another great benefit because, um, America was founded on Americans having land and then um, taking that land and gardening, you know, growing their own food. I mean, even if you look back at the very, very, very beginning of this country, when the Pilgrims came here, even with Columbus and his fleet, when they came and discovered the land, many different times people came here, and they made contact with the Indians who were living on America at that time. Um, one of the first things that they tried to do was figure out how to plant crops so that they could grow food here because they knew that they were going to stay for a while and they knew how crucial food was. A lot of them lived by the coastline, so they could have just as easily fished, but they knew they needed to be able to have a guaranteed yield, a guaranteed amount of food for their people to survive every day. They needed to know that they had food to turn to. I mean, that's why we buy groceries and put things in the fridge. We don't go every single day out to the market and get just enough food for the day. We go and get food, store it in our fridge because we need to know every single day, no matter what's going on, we have a meal waiting for us, right? One of the first things people did when they came to this country was plant crops, start growing food because they, needed that. So America's roots, a lot of that has to do with, homesteading and growing our own food. We've gotten away from that over the last, century because we've become so industrialized that a lot of people stopped growing their own food, moved to the cities where there's a lot of concrete, not that much grass and soil. And we've just kind of given up on that stuff. But it's nice to see somebody who still believes in homesteading is now going to be heading up the USDA. So let's take a look at this interview with him and RFK Jr. and see what they have to say and see what some of their plans are for the future of this nation's health.
Everybody, today my guest is Joel Saladin, who is part of the family that owns Polyface Farms in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. The farm highlighted in the New York Times bestseller Omnivore's Dilemma and the award-winning documentary Food Inc. The farm uses no chemicals and raises pastured livestock, including beef, pork, poultry, turkey, lamb, and rabbit, which is directly marketed in the region and shipped nationwide. He is the author of 16 books. Joel Saladin is a sought-after conference speaker on divergent agricultural business and food integrity topics. He is the editor of the Stockman Grass Farmer, and he writes columns in numerous publications. Welcome to the show. I'm really, really happy to talk to you.
Thank you. It's really an honor and privilege to be with you always.
So tell us a little bit about your farm and where that sits in kind of the national grid of organic agriculture.
Yeah, so we're in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. Our family came here in 1961, and mom and dad never made a living from the farm. They worked off farm to. Dad was an accountant, mom was a school teacher, and that paid the mortgage. So by the time I'm getting into a teenage years, I loved the farm. I got my first chickens when I was 10 years old. Had a little laying chicken business, and but Dad was very innovative, and I'm at the stage of my life where I realize now. The older I get, the smarter Dad was. Some of us get to that point.
I'm hoping my kids get to that point pretty soon.
Yeah, wouldn't that?
So one immediate takeaway that I see just from looking at these two men, they both look like they're in relatively good shape. Obviously we know RFK has that issue with his voice, but that's, could be something hereditary or whatever. It doesn't mean that he's unhealthy. It's just, a medical issue that he has to deal with every day. But beside from that, um, these two men are, clearly in their, I know RFK is in his 70s. I don't know how old Joel is, but he's somewhere probably in his 60s or 70s. And they both look relatively healthy. And that's really more than you can say for the current department heads for, the health um, in our government right now. They don't look like they're relatively healthy people. They just look like they've been appointed to that position because they're bureaucrats or they know the right people, and they're not really doing anything amazing for this country's health. Um, but these two men, first takeaway is they look like they're really healthy for their age, and that's nice to see because that's the type of people that you want in charge of a department of health, right? So let's see what they have to, let's continue.
So so he was, this was in the 60s and 70s, and we basically had a glorified a homestead experimental farm. We milked a couple of cows, we had some chickens in a big garden, but he was totally, his father had been a charter subscriber to Rodale's Organic Gardening and Farming magazine in the mid 1940s when it first came out. So he got this ecology kick, compost and all that from his dad. So we came here, how do you make a living on this small farm? And and all the advice was, buy chemicals, borrow more money, plant corn, build silos, graze the wood lot, those kinds of things. And we knew that that wasn't correct ecologically, but more importantly, he understood that it was incorrect economically. You couldn't chemicalize your way into prosperity. You had to natural equity your way into prosperity. And so we started looking around and saying, well, what do we see in nature? What are patterns in nature? And they're fairly simple. Animals move; they don't stay in buildings, they don't stay in places. There's a lot of diversity, so you don't see single species things. Carbon doesn't move very far. What builds soil is decomposing carbon, and so starting with those kind of things, we just started developing, and I came back to the farm full time September 24, 1982, and it has just continued. It's not gone fast, but it's just been nice and steady up to where today we're servicing. It takes about 22 of us to actually run the farm and do the things that we're doing.
And then you market through what kind of distributors?
Yeah, so our brand is Polyface Farm, and we sell here at the farm. We have about 35 urban drop points within 4 hours of the farm, so that gets us to Keswick, Maryland, DC, Annapolis, and then down to Williamsburg, Virginia Beach, and of course Northern Virginia is the lion's share, Richmond. And then we ship nationwide as well. We also service some institutions. Of course, we lost almost all of our restaurants. We were servicing, I don't know what, 50 restaurants in 2020, and lost all of them. They're not coming back into business. If you didn't have a drive up window in 2020, you were in trouble. And as
You didn't have a what?
a drive up window, in your
Oh, yeah.
restaurant. So fast food did real well, and I think you've actually pointed this out, that the COVID, the 2020, was the largest transfer of wealth in the restaurant industry from from white tablecloth mom and pops, sit down restaurants, to fast food restaurants. It transferred that entire restaurant equity to the great big franchises, as opposed to embedded small kind of chef owned and smaller white tablecloth places, the kind of places that we serviced. And so yeah, that was a big deal. But the farm now, we have this production, but we also do a lot.
So that's a good point that he brought up about during COVID, how a lot of their business with restaurants went under because the restaurants closed and they're not coming back. Now, a lot of that could have been by design to, because a lot of it had to do with policy put out from the government at that time of which businesses could stay open, which ones couldn't, how could they operate, all these unnecessary regulations that were just temporary and all due to, an event that was occurring. And there wasn't really a lot of logic to it. It was just pick and choose. The government decided who can, who can't, and it really hurt a lot of people in the industry. For example, they let liquor stores and ice cream shops stay open, but they tried to force a lot of restaurants to close down and wouldn't let anybody into their restaurants. And then eventually they said you can come in, but you have to seat everybody very far apart. And then eventually people invested all this money into building these outdoor infrastructures, and before you know it, a year later, um, you know, they lifted a lot of those, restrictions. People can go back in the restaurant, but the restaurant already invested all this money into these outdoor seating areas, which people were not using now. So it really took a toll on them. Now, like I said, that could have been by design, where the government was putting restrictions on certain businesses and not others in order to um, give one business the upper hand over another. We really won't know because no one's ever going to admit to it. Um, and I am curious to hear your thoughts about what you think happened during that time. So you could put that in the comments. But this could also be a lesson in business, right? The most innovative, um, you know, things in business, those are the ones that stand the test of time. That's why you always need to be treating your business like it's a startup. You should always be operating from the mindset of we have to keep innovating because we never know what the future is going to bring. Look at how many companies went under that were gigantic because they eventually lost sight of innovation and it got away from them. Blockbuster's probably one of the biggest ones. They were, never got into the streaming game. And even before that, Netflix was doing, I don't know if, many of you remember this, if you're old enough, Netflix was originally doing, they would, burn the DVDs, mail them to your house. And it was like a mail order subscription of getting the movie sent to you rather than going to the store. So it was already a streamlined process where you didn't have to leave your home in order to receive their services. And then eventually they went to streaming. All throughout this process, Blockbuster had the opportunity to see what Netflix was doing and never decided to compete. And then on top of that, Netflix even approached them to have Blockbuster buy Netflix, and they refused. They didn't want it, but they approached them at such a low number. I think it was like $1 million, and they rejected Netflix. Well, eventually, what happened was people decided to switch to streaming and get away from going to the physical, movie store. So they just ended up, you know, downsizing, shrinking, closing locations, and then eventually fully going out of business. I think there might be one Blockbuster left, privately owned in the entire country. I'm not sure about that, but I thought at one point I saw somebody in Seattle um, had bought one less location and kept it open as like a novelty place. Um, but that's an example of not innovating and keeping up with the times. So could this be planned to take the wealth away from the, mom and pop restaurant owner in this country? Yeah, it's possible. But it also could be a lesson in innovation. A lot of restaurants still operate very old school, even the way they do their accounting. They'll have the waitress come over with the pen and paper pad. She'll take your order, she'll write it down on pen and paper, go back to a machine, input it in the machine, then the kitchen gets it. It's all very uninnovative. It's very old school. There are some restaurants now that are innovating in a different way where they're cutting down on their wait staff and they're putting iPads built into or whatever tablet device it is built into the table itself. People are punching in their own orders and the kitchen is receiving the order. They're cutting out the middleman entirely. And then just somebody from the kitchen is serving the people at the table. Or I guess you go up to the counter and pick up your order. So that's innovation. It's not always good for the worker. Sometimes they get phased out, but you have to keep innovating. You have to keep up with the, technology of the time, with the economy, what the people want. And a lot of people have gotten a lot busier over the years because they're struggling to, maintain economically. And they've also gotten impacted by the bad economy the last 4 years, so they don't have the money to go out and spend at restaurants, or they're just lazy. But either way, any one of those three or more, reasons, they're going to fast food restaurants because they like the innovation. They like going up, staying in their car, driving up to a window, having somebody put the food that they ordered into their lap within 5 minutes. That's innovation. So maybe the restaurants in this country could take a note from that. There are a lot of restaurants that make great food, and they're not going to be able to keep up with the demand of a fast food restaurant because the food quality is lessened, but the speed of getting the food to you is quicker. Um, but maybe they could take note of some of the stuff that they were impacted by during the COVID era and modify their business plans to keep up with the times of today. Maybe some restaurants or more restaurants in this country should start having drive-up windows. Imagine if you can go to your favorite Chinese food restaurant that's not a chain. It's not, it's just a mom and pop, but they have a window. If you don't feel like actually dining into the restaurant, you drive up and you pick up your order. Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to, um, you know, ordering your food at home, calling on the phone and going and picking it up. Or you could even have a delivery service, do it. A lot of them are partnering with the restaurants now. But maybe the restaurants wouldn't have, suffered this situation if they had a drive up window during the COVID era. And who knows whatever else comes in the future. So, I'm not picking on restaurants. I love mom and pops. I love supporting small local business in this country. I actually say that, basically every video I promote my stuff because we work with a lot of small bookstores in the country. So I love small business. I love restaurants. Um, but you have to keep up with innovation, if not to stand the test of time, but also to, fight against the powers that be. So let's continue to see what he has to say here.
of of peopling. We have the Lunatic Learning Center. I'm the lunatic farmer. And so we have the Lunatic Learning Center. We do a lot of farm tours and gatherings and things for, folks to come and see. And we know there are two ways to get people on board: see it and eat it. And if you can see it and eat it, that's even better. And so that's been a key part of our whole program.
What do you mean by drop points? Are those like farmers markets?
No, they're not. They're individual homes. We call them hostess homes. I think we have one host, and all the rest of them are hostesses. Women buy all the food in the country, men don't, and we're pleased with that. Okay, so these are serviced monthly. People order online, and we go in directly from the farm and service. So it's a la carte. There's not a subscription. It's not a volume centric thing. But you buy online, and then we deliver the orders directly to you. And these become little fellowship hubs. These become people meet each other.
Well, there you go. He just made my point. He's got a farm, and they've innovated by allowing you to order your produce or whatever it is from their farm and get it delivered directly to your door. That's innovation. That's keeping up with business. Think about that too, right? Agriculture is probably one of the most uninnovative industries in the country. They still do things very similar to the way they used to a couple hundred years ago. The only thing that is new is the equipment that they use to actually farm. The tractors and a lot of the machines and stuff like that are more modern and capable of doing things faster than just one individual can. But the whole process is still very, old school. They grow the food, they harvest the food, and then they bring it to or have a distributor come to them, and that distributor distributes it out throughout the country. Now, I have seen some other companies across the nation doing this, so it's not like he's the first one to do it, but it's very innovative. He's allowing people to order directly from his farm and get it delivered to their home. That's the type of innovation that I'm talking about. If a farm can do it, anybody in this country can do it.
And they become little fellowship hubs of people who care about food, care about the environment, care about livestock care, and the kind of issues that we care about. And it's wonderful to be able to service them and have them meet each other and build these little tribes, if you will, that understand these, that share these values. It's really wonderful.
But I still don't understand how it works. Like, you mean if are they little mini distributorships in
No, no,
there?
no, no, no. We're working directly with them. So what it is they order online, and we're going to be in, let's say, whatever, Leesburg, Virginia, on Tuesday. So we go every month on a schedule, and people order, and we compile their orders here and bring them up, and they meet us at that host home, at that rendezvous place. They meet us there. So obviously we have to be in places that are conducive to, to 30 or 40 people showing up in a 1 hour period, to pick up their food. But it allows us, it allows us direct contact with our customer. That way they get to see us, we get to see them, and they get to meet each other, and share notes. And so it's a, it's a, we do everything possible to try to create a familial operation. And you can't believe how much people yearn for a connection like this. Last year we began taking a hen, a laying hen. We called her Polly Hen. We're polyface, so we took Polly Hen, and made a nice little wooden thing, and we'd take her, and so customers could come and meet this chicken. And we had people that weren't even customers coming 3 or 4 blocks, walking, come see the chicken. It's in town, it's in the city. Come see the chicken. It was crazy. We could not imagine just the sheer. One lady kept pulling her son out of school. He was like in 3rd grade, and every month when we came, she'd pull him out of school early so he could come and pet the chicken. And it was just a huge a huge connective thing. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing to in addition to obviously really good food, to stimulate the whole story, family, fellowship, connection thing, to the food and the farm.
Now, I mean, did you make this whole thing up as you were going along, or are there models for this happening elsewhere in the country?
Well, yeah, actually, I don't want to take too much credit, but we kind of conceived of this. Our first, here's the thing: we were unhappy with what we saw at farmers markets. Now, I'm a friend of farmers markets. Don't read into this at all. But farmers markets are they're almost more social. They're almost more social gatherings than actual transfer of food. You don't see people at a farmer's market typically, buying a half a beef and buying, a bushel of green beans, and they're buying little uh, whatever. They're participating in the local food scene, but it's one hand only, because the other hand's carrying Fifi, the coiffed poodle dog, and we're all there to kind of meet each other and slap each other on the back for being wonderful people participating in the local food system. And so we tried numerous farmers markets, and we were never pleased with the investment of time and energy, and realized, well, what if we just use the power of the internet, and this is going back now, goodness, 20 some years. What if we use that, communicate directly with our people, and just and pre-buy, so they're pre-buy, so we're not going speculating, and we can service them right where they live, and they can see us, we can see them, and we can actually electronically aggregate stuff. And it just took off. It took off, and it enabled us to put way more on the truck, to get way more for our time, and everything was sold before we pulled out of the driveway. So we didn't have to come home and unpack a bunch of stuff that didn't sell. It was all pre-sold. And there are now numerous farms around the country that have taken this kind of urban drop point idea, and adapted it. And it's just one of the many opportunities that have come to us largely due to internet and the cheap cost of communication now, that we didn't have, 50 years ago.
So, a lot of what I'm taking away from this is that number one, Trump is such a businessman that he is clearly picking people who are pro business, pro capitalism, but also have a good business mindset to join him in solving America's problems, because that's really what entrepreneurs do. At the end of the day, I think a lot of people think that people get into business because they're greedy and they want to get rich and make a lot of money. Most entrepreneurs get into um, a business, start a company, whatever, um, usually because number one, they probably don't want to work for somebody, they want to work for themselves. Number two is they either found a problem that they want to solve, or they figured out a solution to a problem and want to bring that to the marketplace. Um, Either way, um, this is the type of innovative mindset, entrepreneurial mindset that we want in government. A lot of government causes more problems than it solves. That's just inherent in who government is, and that's kind of, how it was from the beginning of time. It's just, also too, you have to remember the government's filled with people, right? And a lot of people are just, people like you and me, the average person that goes to work every day, and a lot of people's mindset is to just run out the clock. I just want to make it through the day so that I can get to the end of the week or 2 weeks, get my paycheck, and then go live my life on my free time. And every day is just that, running out the clock. That's not what you want in government. You want people who solve problems. You want people who aren't there to just run out the clock, or collect a paycheck and stay as long as they possibly can, keep getting voted in and stuff like that. You want people to come in, solve problems, inspire the American people to do that themselves, but on a smaller scale, obviously, in their local communities, and then get out and let somebody else, come in and keep that change agent going, so that you don't have, lifers staying there forever. And right away, my takeaway from this video so far is that this gentleman not only is knowledgeable about farming and has a background in that, but he's also very business minded. And he seems like he's an entrepreneur. He's an innovator. He is the type of person that is going to figure out a problem. Like he said, he didn't like the way the farmers markets operated in this country. So he saw that as a problem. And then he wanted to create a solution to the problem. And he used technology in order to do that. That's what innovation is. That's exactly what innovation is in a nutshell. So this type of mindset in a person that is going to head up a government department is exactly what America needs. And it sounds to me like he's going to hopefully do a great job.
Yeah, I know. I used to know very well, be good friends with Bill Nyman,
Yeah,
who started Nyman Ranch, and
sure.
his wife, uh, Nicolette,
Colette.
actually was an attorney for me that I
Yeah.
hired, and I brought her into the hog litigation, and then she met Bill through that and ended up marrying him. Now she's a farmer. But their model was very interesting because they aggregated farmers from all over the country who were doing grass-fed beef um, and non and pasture-raised beef and pork, and I think chickens as well, maybe other poultry. But they would then go certify these farms, look at their operations, make sure that they were compliant with these standards, and then they market them nationwide. So you can go to restaurants all over the country and get Nyman pork, Nyman beef, and it's delicious food. It tastes completely different than the Walmart pork.
Yes.
Yes. I'm not sure how they're doing right now. I know they had some reorganizations along the way, but is there anybody who's now kind of aggregating what you're doing and doing it nationally?
Yeah, well, what the whole logistics of distribution has completely changed over the last, goodness, just 10 or 15 years, because the software, that UPS and FedEx and these folks use, makes it so much more efficient. So, it used to be that in order to distribute, it was very, very expensive, for a small scale operation. But now, we're plugged directly into UPS, and the truck comes every Tuesday afternoon and every Wednesday afternoon, and and um, and it goes right on the truck, and it's what's happened. You'll love this. You'll love this. What's happened now is, if you'd have told me 5 years ago that we would ship eggs to whatever, Los Angeles, I'd have said you were crazy. But we figured out how to do it. We stole some ideas from other people, and did some of our own, and started doing it. We can now ship eggs into New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Chicago, Los Angeles, cheaper than they can get them at farmers market. Because when you have the level of corruption, regulation, high taxes, defund the police, all the things that are crumbling these cities, it makes business very difficult. You can't hire people, you can't protect your inventory, and as a result, places where we are out here in the Shenandoah Valley, where we're low taxes, low crime, a great work ethic. We can now compete like we never could have before, as these big metropolitan areas begin to move into dysfunctionality, from a logistical, political standpoint. And it's I mean, part of me is heartbroken that things are that broken, which is one of the reasons your run excites me so much. Things have become that broken, but it's just amazing that we're inverting, or we're creating opportunities in niches that we never would have even conceived of even 10 years ago.
Let's talk out another way into another topic that I have a lot of interest, which are the bureaucratic impediments and costs on quality food production. How essentially the USDA, the FDA, and these other regulatory agencies are making war on healthy food and organic food, and raising the cost so much of all food in this country, and giving us the lowest quality food, and all the food that's been corralled through these industrial mazes, so that only the worst food is actually reaching the American public, and it's high cost. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, you're getting near and dear to my heart. I wrote a book, Everything I Want to Do is Illegal, and describing our whatever battles with the regulatory agencies over the years. And notice I said everything I want to do is, I didn't say everything I do is illegal. I said everything I want to do is illegal. That's an important distinction. But the thing to remember is that all the regulations are size prejudicial. They're size prejudicial. In other words, they're easier to comply with if you're large than if you're small. For example, if I want to make charcuterie, if to get licensed, if to get legal to sell it, I have to have a $5,000 24/7 thermocoupled thermometer. Okay. Well, if I'm making a tractor trailer load of charcuterie, that $5,000 thermometer is not a great big deal. But if I'm making a 5-gallon bucket or 2 5-gallon buckets in on my farm or in my cottage industry, that's a game changer. That keeps me from even starting into the business. And so we have an incredible weighted cost because the paperwork and the compliance, this is not about safety. It's not about food safety. It's about the cost of compliance, the overheads, the infrastructure requirements, the compliance paperwork requirements create such an overhead that when you don't have as many pounds of beef or pounds of pork or chicken or whatever to pass under that licensure overhead, the price becomes prohibitive. And so what happens is farmers like us get accused of being, oh, you're a bunch of elitists. You got this high price stuff. Well, I can tell you most of our high pricing has nothing to do with actual production costs. It's actually trying to squeeze our 300 beef a year through a filter that is built for 5,000 beef a day. And that's the problem. Is the scale prejudicial nature of these food requirements. And the crazy thing about it is that we can give it away. I can go, butcher a pig in the backyard and give it to the neighbors, and I'm a great American. But if they give me $1 for it, now I'm suddenly a criminal. What is it about exchanging, taking $1 for that suddenly turned me from a benevolent, charitable person into a criminal? It has nothing to do with food safety. It has to do with market access. If you visit Williamsburg, I know you've been to Williamsburg many times. The thing that strikes you about Williamsburg, strikes me, is the amount of industry and value-added activity that's happening in the backyards and in the in the fields of those little farms or those little demonstration places. I mean, they've got candle makers, spoke makers, leather works, casket makers, spinners, weavers. All of the industry was being done in on location. The butcher, baker, and candlestick maker were on location. And today, what's happened is the Industrial Revolution made the butcher, baker, and candlestick maker so big that nobody wanted it near them because it was ugly and smelled bad and dirty and all that. So they wanted them put out here. But then when they got out here and nobody could see them, they wanted government oversight to see behind that razor wire and the guard fence and say, what's going on behind that razor wire? Because when people can't see, they want the security of a government agent behind them to see. Well, what's happened now is that with the internet, we have now democratized the ability to get information. I call it Uberized. We've Uberized, and just, I'm sure like you, if 40 years ago somebody had said, in about 10 years, millions of people all over the planet are going to jump into cars with people that don't even have a chauffeur's license and ask the guy to take them someplace, and it's all going to work, because if you're a bad passenger, they'll dock you and you won't get a ride. And if they're a bad driver, you'll dock them and they won't get any business. And so the internet created, that's called the Uberization. It created it literally enabled on a global scale the butcher, baker, and candlestick maker and the village knowledge that wrapped around these embedded artisans, that and ability to be duplicated on a very large, grand scale. But food, which was the last portion to join the Industrial Revolution, will be the last to exit. And so we now have the capability to Uberize our food system, to break it down, to democratize it, to create an egalitarian marketplace for entrepreneurial small scale brands and local food systems. We've never been able to do that as now with Uberization, Airbnb, those kinds of things, have this amazing bureaucracy. You're so eloquent to talk about that preserves, that's trying to preserve the taxi cab, that's trying to preserve the chauffeur service, and not allow an Uberization of our food system.
So that's another great point that he's making, and it's so true. The government a lot of the time tends to involve themselves in business, and they're not supposed to. The only thing they're really allowed to do is regulate industries, but they're not allowed to involve themselves in an industry where they, you know, favor one business over another or one specific company or whatever. That's interfering in commerce. And they're not allowed to do that, but they can regulate an entire industry so that it's fair for everyone and make a level playing field. What they do a lot of the times is the opposite. They will pick and choose winners and you know, try and allow those winners to rise above all the rest. That's not capitalism. I think they kind of term that crony capitalism today, but really it's just corruption. It's just fraud and corruption. And it needs to eventually one day be outlawed completely. Um, but you know, it's hard to write laws where, you know, you make corruption illegal because people will always find a way to corrupt something. That's what criminals do. They always find a way around the law. It's a constant cat and mouse game. But I like what he's saying. It's true that, you know, if you look at the country over the last couple decades, um, these factory farming, you know, corporations and all these companies that make genetically modified food, and, you know, pesticide companies and all these, you know, big corporations that are taking agriculture and they're um, corporatizing it and expanding it into these mega companies. Um, they've really hurt the food industry in a lot of ways, and they've hurt our food, which ultimately has damaged our health because they've totally sacrificed quality and, um, you know, doing things in a humane way for the animals and everything involved in the process over, you know, for profits. That was, you know, and look what they've done. They've grown these into mega corporations. And if you notice too, over the last few decades, these corporations have gotten gigantic, where they are the monopoly. They take over the entire industry, and then the rest of the industry is competing with them. We have anti-monopoly laws in this country. No government officials are enforcing them. I just saw something recently where the DOJ, I think, is trying to get Google to sell Google Chrome because they have market dominance over the search engine industry. So for the first time in a long time, I'm actually seeing the government step in to a monopoly and demand that they, you know, um, take some of that, you know, basically they take some of that power from that company so that they can't be a monopoly and it allows fair free market competition. But that's the first time I've seen that in a long time. Um, Really the government does need to get involved, and maybe he will in this position with, you know, making a level playing field for the local farmers. And there are so many restrictions on local farmers, and none of it really makes sense in a way where it actually benefits the American people or it benefits the industry as a whole. A lot of the regulations that the government has put on these companies and the industry has actually hurt everything, hurt the Americans, hurt the farmers, and hurt the industry as a whole, and really only made it better for the big corporations. Just take raw milk, for example. In many states in America, raw milk is illegal. Think about how insane that is, right? Raw milk is completely natural. God designed this beautiful, you know, formula of nutrients that comes directly from an animal that's actually its purpose is to nourish that animal's child. But because humans have domain over animals, we can consume that as well. And it's nourishing to us as well. And raw milk in its raw form, or anything really in its raw form, is going to be most potent, right? There's absolutely no reason to make raw milk illegal or outlaw it or put regulations on it. And that's why in many states, raw milk is not illegal because that's ridiculous. Only in certain states it is. you have to kind of ask yourself, why is that illegal? How could a government tell you you can't consume something that naturally occurs in the earth? Um, that's insane, right? Um, and you could go down that, rabbit hole in many other facets as well. But it's ridiculous, and it doesn't do anybody any good. If you want to get raw milk directly from a farm, bring it home, drink it, that's your choice. Now, if you bring it to the store shelves and it's not pasteurized or homogenized or whatever shelf stable things they do, and it spoils fast, yeah, you're gonna have a little bit of an issue because the customer is going to either buy spoiled milk and be upset about that, or the store is going to have milk on their shelves and it's not lasting. But the capitalist free market will solve that problem itself. Either they'll implement these things like pasteurization, like they have, or they will basically just go back to the farm and say, we can't buy your product because it's not shelf stable and we need the products on our shelves to last a long time. The government has no right to involve itself in that, and it really shouldn't. So hopefully this man will make some changes and we'll see what actually comes of this. But we're not going to watch the whole video. It's an hour long. We're already an hour into this video. If you want to watch it on your own, it's on RFK Jr.'s podcast, his channel, and the gentleman's name is Joel Salatin. Um, so it looks promising. It looks like these two men, um, together as a team, but also separately in their own positions, will hopefully do a lot of great things for this nation. And as part of the Trump, team, will help to really make some major changes. And the innovation alone is really what's going to be cool to see because it seems like they both have very innovative mindsets, especially this guy Joel. He is definitely thinking like an entrepreneur, which is great because that's exactly what America needs, and that's what it was founded on. This country was founded on a lot of entrepreneurs. So I'm excited to see what the future of these men in these positions is going to do for this country. Hopefully, it'll change a lot of the regulations that are unnecessary in the agriculture, farming, and other elements of the food industry, um, and make things a lot better for the American people and the farmers themselves. And, maybe we'll see them crack down on some of these major monopolies and force them to kind of break up their businesses so that they can't have market dominance in that way. It's nothing wrong with competition, nothing wrong with people competing fairly in a free open market. And if one company just happens to do really well and build itself up to where it has a majority of the market share, there's nothing wrong with that. That's capitalism. The problem is when the government gets involved and tries to control who actually does get the dominance, and then that company ends up dominating the market by like 80, 90%. You can't have that. That's not free market, and that's not fair capitalism in this country. But what you can have is everybody has a fair chance, sink or swim, may the best company win. That's fair. So hopefully he implements some policies that help and changes, agriculture in this country going forward. And homesteading, I'm excited to see what he's going to end up doing to benefit homesteading. Now, if you don't know, um, this is a little side note. It's a good tip. If you are the type of person that's looking to get into homesteading, look at your state because from a real estate perspective, some states actually offer, grants or tax breaks for people who are willing to homestead. And we definitely need more farmers in this country, more people growing food, as you've seen over the last couple of years with COVID and things like, shortages from strikes and whatever else. Um, you know, some of the perishable items, milk, cheese, eggs, butter, things like that, tend to go the quickest and tend to be the things that are most scarce on the shelf. So we always need more people to grow their own food and supply their local community. So if you're looking at getting into homesteading, definitely check your state. There might be some, interesting tax breaks or incentives that they can offer you to homestead on your land. But that's it for this video. Like I said, if you want to see the rest of the video, you can check it out on RFK Jr.'s podcast or his channel and see what else this gentleman has to say. But we'll check in periodically once once these two are both in their positions in the Trump administration. We're going to see and monitor, what they do right or wrong or whatever, and we'll make more videos in the future. But we're definitely going to do a lot more videos about health and things of that nature on this channel. So if that's the type of stuff you like, subscribe. Don't forget to like, follow, share, all that good stuff. It definitely helps the channel grow. And if there is topics in particular or things that you want me to comment make a video on, put that in the comments so that I know what it is you're looking for, and I'll do my best to do that. All right, but that's it for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. All right, everybody, I just want to take a moment to promote my children's book. This is Little Boy Full of Love. That's me on the back. And this is a little sneak peek on the inside. It's a great book. It's a children's book. I actually wrote this for my son, and it's available right now on Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Indigo, bookshop.org, and a lot of other online platforms. But more importantly to me, it's actually available in a lot of bookstores throughout the country. You can find out which ones are closest to you on my Instagram page. You know, we highly recommend that you shop local, buy from a local bookstore. So if you are looking to, get a children's book for you or anybody you know, or even with the holidays coming up, it's a great time to, buy a children's book as a gift. Definitely get it from a bookstore that's local to you. But if you absolutely can't get it from one of the bookstores that are currently carrying it right now, and we're in about 15 or 16 different states across the country, so it may actually be in your state, and it could even be local to you. But if you can't get it from the physical bookstore, check out our Amazon storefront. The book's available on there right now. And like I said, with the holidays coming up, you may want to do your Christmas or Hanukkah or holiday shopping early. And you can even order it from our Amazon storefront and ship it directly to whoever you're gifting it to. But it's available on those platforms, Amazon storefront and bookstores and other websites that I mentioned. But I want to take a moment here to look at the storefront just to give you an idea of some other stuff that we have available on there. These are products that we highly recommend. They are things that we use in our daily lives, and it's all organized by category. So it's a lot easier to, shop for the holidays and specifically for things that interest you, particular categories available right now, many different items on our storefront. You can see here, 61 items just in women's apparel, fall decor, because right now we're in fall. 26 items, kitchen items, baking specifically, things for around the house, children's toys, even stuff for parties. If you're trying to save money on a party and throw in your own, occasion, you can even buy some cool gadgets here to help you, put on a better party. Health and wellness items here, even stuff for Christmas. And there's the book right there. So you can get it from the storefront. You can get it from the bookstores, like I mentioned, but it's available on all these different platforms. It's really easy to find and gift to somebody. Also, I want to show you the apparel shop, and these are some clothing items that we actually produce. So if you're looking to get some cool apparel items, shirts, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, leggings, even accessories, cell phone cases, women's makeup bags, fanny packs, coffee mugs, all different types of stuff, even some, art, all different categories here, apparel, homeware, accessories, drinks, even digital items. It's all on this store, healthybodygoodssoul.com. Anything that pertains to you or somebody that you're looking to get a gift for the holidays. A lot of great designs on here, a lot of cool designs that we actually custom created. Stainless steel water bottles, especially now with the fall and winter. A lot of cool hoodies and long sleeve shirts. This is a really cool one, I think, for women. The original Be Your Soul apparel, that one's actually really popular. People tend to like that. This one's one of my favorites. The free shirt. It's the American flag, and it says free, and that says not property of the United States government. That one's pretty cool. Got all different types of tank tops, hoodies, long sleeve, short sleeve, tote bags, coffee mugs, even some items for kids, backpacks. So if you're the type that likes to, plan ahead, I would definitely recommend ordering from the Amazon storefront or the apparel shop within the next couple of weeks to get everything in time for the holidays. Use code SAVE15 on the apparel shop to save 15% off everything on the storefront. So order within the next week or two, and you'll definitely have everything in time for the holidays. Definitely check out all the links to everything, the Amazon storefront, the book, and the apparel shop in my bio on all my platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. But you can also find them in all the show notes for every episode that I post, and get all your orders in time for the holidays. All right, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps the channel continue to grow. And put in the comments things that you would like me to talk about and make videos on for the future. And I will definitely do my best to do that. Stay tuned for the next one.